Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Werewolf the Wild West game. I am the Ravnos Archon. My name is Will. I will be your storyteller this evening. Out in the wilds of the American West, there's a town that rose up out of necessity. This is Conflict. It was founded and named not for the bloodshed that it would come to know, but for the trouble of coming up with a proper name for a city. Simple people, simple times, simple names. Founded for its mining veins, Harold Penterton and Bartholomew Sirix have worked industrially hard at making Conflict a gateway city, a stop on the way to California. It has been 12 years since the end of the Mexican-American War, 12 years since the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo divided the western portion of the United States into Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado, where our story takes place. The Colorado Territory has seen an influx of pioneers, of settlers, and of those just looking to make their fortune, in one way or another. It has been 2 years since the Pikes Peak gold rush began, and as the saying goes, there's gold in them there hills. Sitting in the shadow of Culebra Peak, Conflict stands to make the right people rich. And with greed slithering through the streets like the namesake of the mountain looming over them, we will be honing in on a group of people from disparate walks of life, from far-flung and from neighboring territories, and with only one thing in common. They are Guru, werewolves, the walkers of the two worlds, the material plane and the spiritual plane. They are the werewolves of myth and legend. They are born of the two worlds and not belonging to either. This is a tale of wants, of needs, and of the horror that comes from choosing one over the other. The Sombra Escondida Caern is watched over by a worried group of Wendigo, Uktena, and Red Talons. Stories of the white men have circulated, stories about how they bring ruin and the weaver in their wake, stories about how they allow themselves to be seduced by the worm, and sadly, stories about how the wild weeps with every conquering step they take. The town of Conflict has and will live up to its name. The land stirs as the trampling of boots, the hammering of iron, and the hoots and hollering of men replaces the barks and howls of the wolves that call this home. Progress comes to Conflict. Main Street comes to life with the rising of the sun and is lively well into the moon's claim of the sky above. Farmland is plentiful, mining is bountiful, and the liquor is abundant. But a storm is on the horizon. Thunder rolls like the heavy wheels of the wagon train. Lightning cracks like a chorus of whips on the railroad, and the darkening of the sky creeps ever closer to Conflict, Colorado. But we're not going to open up on Conflict when we meet Walks with the Spirits. We're going to be down a little bit further to the east, I believe. That's where Pueblo is currently residing. Walks with Spirits is a Wendigo Theurge of some renown, I would think. You've helped different cairns. You have stuck it out in Pueblo as the keeper of the land. And yet, your dreams of late have been worrisome.
Spirits are finally asking me to move again.
They are. You have tried to fit in to a pack here. There is no other Theurge. There's 2 Ragabash, a Galliard, and a Naroon. And it's been difficult. There's no real Philodox to keep you in check. There's just this. It hasn't felt right in any way, shape, or form. But you are correct. there have been some spirits made their way to you, warn of something under the earth, something that is stirring, that has not stirred in some time. And it's pointing west.
Westward I must go then. I try to contact the rest of the tribe that I've been with,
Hmm.
gather at the cairn, and as unceremoniously as possible, let them know I'm needed elsewhere.
There is a bit of
This is how I came to
sadness.
them.
Yeah, there's a bit of sadness. You have helped to raise a Theurge that came up. They are still young. They're maybe in their 15th year of life, give or take, depending on when you consider their birth date. And he is unprepared for the burden that you are leaving on him. But he doesn't show it.
I've taught you well. The bond may shrink, the white man may come, but you have support, and perhaps I'll be able to return if the spirits will it.
He nods. Safe journey. And everybody kind of holds out their hand to you just to touch you one last time. Even though you've only been here a year, it's felt like this could have been home for you. Excuse me. Still, the spirits urge you elsewhere. And as you start to make your trek out to conflict, there's a moment where one evening you see claws, you see fur, you see blood, and you feel the heat of a rage that doesn't feel like it could be stymied in any way, shape, or form.
Finally.
The rage is so strong it even brings a tear to your eye, and you wake up almost crying. And deep down inside, you know that that is the totem for your tribe. That is the Wendigo itself. And it is not asking to be let out of its cage. It is threatening. You feel that this is either a call to arms or a push to make sure that no one gets in its way. But you know for a fact, the second you wake up, that it is coming.
What I've been waiting for. Chance to strike out. Chance to channel my rage.
Yeah. You continue heading west, and you come across a small pack of 3 wolves that look to be just scouting. You immediately smell that these are not Guru.
In either case, I would be traveling in lupus form.
Okay.
And
What does your lupus form look like?
Mostly gray with some patchy, streaky, black and red fur. It's a northern kind of timber wolf look
Nice. Okay.
from a place further north than my homeland, but fitting with the go.
Yeah. Two of the wolves are mottled brown and black. There's a couple of streaks of white. One of them looks to be just more of a cherry brown, and it has this very pronounced white belly. One of the brown ones looks to be the alpha of the three, and it immediately kind of sniffs you out, and the second it senses your beast inside, all three of them just kind of like lower their gaze.
I pay them my own respect and try to find what they were looking at
The red one,
before entry.
yeah, the red one, without looking at you, rabbit.
I bid them a good hunt and carry on my way.
Okay. They do not move until you are well outside of their like field of vision and olfactory range. There is a deep respect there. And even after you are gone, you can hear the howls of the successful hunt. And there is a praise to the large wolf that brought them luck.
Sweet sounds.
You,
As it should be.
you continue on your journey, and after a few days, you can see the tendrils of smoke in the distance that don't sit well in your gut, because you know that where there's smoke, there's man. And as you crest a hill, you see this vibrant, thriving town at the base of the mountains. It is hugging the base, but it has spread north and south and is slowly spreading eastward. But you can see the trench that's already being dug out and the wooden structure of what it looks to be and what you recognize from some of the raids that you've done outside of Pueblo as a station house. It looks like they're preparing for the rail to come through. And you know that with the rail comes the Weaver.
Weaver's web has reached here already. A good place to find conflict.
And you have heard that they are trying their damnedest to create a web that goes from one coast to the other. There's a big talk of the Transcontinental Railroad and what it could mean for humanity moving forward.
The end of it?
That's how it
End of
seems.
all things?
Once the Weaver's
End
web
of the pure web.
has reached even that far out, who's to say how to stop it? How do you want to approach the city?
I would look for signs of the edges of of the bond.
Okay.
I presume that the spirits guiding me here means there must be a cairn nearby. There would be no point to going to a place with no site of power.
Yeah. You have your dice handy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. That's how you make a perception and alertness.
Okay.
That's going to be a difficulty 6. And you are in your lupus form.
So a perception would be 4 dice. Is that how that goes?
So, yeah, so you're going to roll 4 dice from perception, and then 2 dice from alertness. So you have a 6 dice pool. And you're looking for, because you are in your lupus form, you get a -2 to your difficulty for perception checks. So anything that's 4 or higher counts as a success.
And zeros or tens, right?
0s or 10s, and 1s
And
subtract successes.
okay. So I've got 1, and I've got 4 successes.
Is that counting the 1?
Sorry, yes, it does count the 1. So 3
3.
total.
3
possible.
successes. Okay. It is not difficult to find what you're looking for. You know the signs, and you've heard that out here there are Wendigo. You know, it's one of the few things that have given you solace in coming out this way, is the fact that at best you'll find some tribesmen, at worst you'll find the white man. And there are symbols. There are scratches along the base of some cactus. There are scratches on some rock faces, and they all lead you to where you believe is the southern edge of the Bon.
I'll shift into Hamid and announce myself in an appropriate way as I make my way into the bond.
Okay. Do you have the rite of talisman dedication?
I do not. The rite of cleansing, summoning,
Okay.
here for the prey, hail the sun.
So you are naked when you shift out of your wolf form.
Oh, I thought I have to know the rite in order to have had my clothing dedicated.
Unless somebody is kind enough to have used up one of their gnosis slots for a particular set of clothing for you.
Uh,
Do you think you would
well,
have talked to your protege into doing that for you?
yes, before travel,
Just be
it
like,
would seem it would be prudent.
it's like, hey man, just to test out how long you can sustain this effect. Let me have you dedicate this clothing for me. There's nothing shisty about this. This is just to test your abilities. And of course, he would have been like, okay, I get it, I understand. So we'll say that you did talk him into producing the doing the right on you, on your clothing at least. So how do we find Walks with Spirits as he takes his human form? The fur kind of melts away, the fingers extend out from paws.
He's dressed very simply with in buffalo leathers, about 5'8", with dark shoulder length hair. Uh, he's weathered. The trek from his homelands was a long one, and by the time he found himself in Pueblo uh, and dealing with the fort and restoring the cairn there, it's taken its toll. Um, he has a large scar down his chest that pokes out of the leather vest that he wears. It's a ritualistic thing from his homeland, and he's notably got uh, black-bottomed moccasins, which he's had to work fairly hard to keep in the condition that they're in. But they're a signifier of his home and his human heritage that
Mhm.
he likes to keep, even if he feels that they've been corrupted from the pure ways.
Right. You announce yourself, and after a moment, after a good, like, almost 20 minutes, you see a lupus come up, almost stark black. There's strands of red and brown, though, that kind of look like shooting stars across the tellurian of their fur. And as she comes close, there's a moment where she stops, she bows, and she takes her Hamid form. And you see this almost milk chocolate brown skinned woman, um, honey colored eyes, this wild mane of black hair, and this very simple, kind of similar leathers to yours. And she raises her hand to you. It's good to meet a fellow tribesman. What brings you to this
Your will
land?
met. The spirits have sent for me.
Hmm. You have sensed the upheaval. You are a crescent?
Rage will be upon me. I am Theurge.
She nods and there's a smile that comes over her face. We have need of your kind.
As I expected.
Can you take the wolf form?
Yes.
Then I will lead you to our cairn. And you see her kind of spin in place, like a dog trying to get comfortable. And as she does, every step brings her down and closer to the ground as she becomes her wolf form. And you see her just kind of like wag her tail at you excitedly.
I'll join her, but with much less ceremony to my change.
You start to trot into the barn, and you see that you are making your way up the mountain. There is this path of sorts, and on the other side of one of the ridges, you can hear the soft, kind of carried up the wind melody of what sounds like men playing music. There's laughter. There's jovial, good times that come up. And after a moment, you hear some high pitched whistle. The music stops, and you just feel the shift almost instantly as the happiness is gone, and there's an air of duty that comes over. And she kind of looks back. Miners. They take.
We avoid them.
She nods. And there is a portion of the path that you can take that overlooks the encampment where you can see the kind of tents laid out. You see what looks to be a guitar that's been laid out. You can see the little simple wooden box with like a leather flap on it that is similar to a cajon. And you see the carts of the spoils. One cart looks to be almost full. There's chunks of rock that look to have been mined out of the mountain itself. But you can also see the shimmering silver chunks that sit at the forefront and at the top of the pile. And you instinctively know that this is what brought people here.
Can't believe it takes so much. Great.
The sad nod from her. And she starts
this
to.
is within the bond?
No.
Oh.
This is in the mountain. And the path winds down, and as it does, it comes to this beautiful kind of grasslands on the other side of the mountain range. And you can see the forest of intermingled trees that are starting to turn yellow as the summer is coming to an end and fall is starting to creep in. And intermingled with this this display of color, you can just see the evergreens kind of laid out in this beautiful, just majestic green, untouched land in front of you. And as she gets to the forest line, she lets out a few yips and a howl that you recognize as I'm coming. I have a guest. And you hear a guttural howl in return. You may come. And as you follow her deeper into the forest, you come to this clearing. You can see this massive, beautiful, what must be, if not pine, something equivalent of an evergreen that just has this massive trunk that looks to be maybe 8 feet in diameter. And you can see that there's this hollow, this flute that kind of extends up a bit of it. And it looks like they have continually carved into this tree to create this kind of throne shape, this nook to be sat in. And right now it sits empty. There's nobody sitting in it. In the cairn itself, you can feel the warmth of the spiritual energies kind of coming in and out. You can feel the welcoming sensation of whatever totem spirit resides here. You don't feel that rage. You don't feel that anger that you dreamt about. This is a very different spirit here.
After being so long in the kind of run-down cairn, this is a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you see this beautiful red-furred wolf. Just the crimson of the red is very much like a fall leaf in full, like, death spiral, where it's just almost orange, almost wanting to be red, but it's just a mixture of the two. And it comes close. You can see that there's 3 lines where the fur can no longer grow across his face, across the muzzle, where it looks like he took some massive battle scars. And there's other patches here and there. They're not as pronounced, mostly because he can hide the rest of them with his fur. But the face he just can't hide. And as he steps forward to meet the two of you, you see him nuzzle the neck of the woman. It is very, what you would consider a romantic gesture. Like what you would expect to see from mates. And she nods and kind of motions to you. And he looks you in your eyes. And you can see that from his melted chocolate brown eyes, although they appear soft to you, there is an age of war that has tempered him. And takes in a deep breath. You are well met. Name.
I'm Walks of Spirits.
He nods. You have
I've been guided.
spirits have warned us, prepared us. See, he corrects himself. You are Crescent. He smells you. You are Wendigo.
Come from far north.
He nods. You are welcome. And then he comes over to you, and you see him put his head on top of yours. Almost like he expects you to nuzzle into him like she did.
I give an appropriate but not overly large amount of deference.
He pulls himself away. I am Ren's the flesh.
Erun?
He nods. I am Cairn, Challenge Master.
Mm.
And then he kind of motions to his fur. Red Talon.
Deep respect.
Cairn, Alpha. Red Talon. He barks and yips, and you see this other soft brown, black spotted, or black streaked rather, the wolf kind of sheepishly come around behind a tree and come over, and you see him just very heavily pad the ground in front of him as he comes to a stop. And the wolf just kind of nods, and then the fur starts to melt away. The muzzle starts to retreat into his face, and as his human form emerges from where the wolf once was, you see not the leathers and furs that you would expect from this tanned, very clearly Native American male, but you see the tailored kind of pants, the dress shirt, the vest that comes from the city folk, city wear. And he nods at you. They call me Charlie, Charles. Um, I am one of the few people allowed to go into the city. Uh, I'm the Cairn's Theurge. Also, Wendigo. It's an honor, sir. And as he talks, you notice that although he looks older, like he's got some facial hair on him, he's got the look of somebody that just has been in the city a while. He carries himself like a young person. Like at most, you're thinking this guy has to be 16.
The spirits speak to you?
He nods. I'm also Theurge. Um, I'm not. I'm new to this, and the challenge master looks at you. Recent change. Less than a moon ago. And the kid nods. I'm still coming to terms with what I'm supposed to do, and what's expected of me, and I could really use your help, sir. It's if that's not too hard, too much to ask of you. And again, the red wolf pats at the foot, um, and the kid kind of nods and takes a step back. Sorry, I didn't mean to impose. You have questions?
I would shift myself to greet him in the hum.
Okay. He extends his hand.
Yes. You have much to learn of our ways, but I'll gladly impart what I can. Ways
So
of pure, the pure ones.
the
Perhaps unlearn some of your tainted ways.
the Red Talon just nods, and you can see that there's almost a smile that comes over his muzzle, his muzzle rather, and he looks at the young lady that brought you. He nods to her. She does a quick nod and then starts to trot off again in the direction that she brought you from. He looks at you and he's like, "We'll summon the rest. Must be introduced." There is food. There is water. You are welcome.
You honor me.
With a nod, he starts to go back to his business. The young kid kind of standing there with you is like, you want a tour, sir? I can show you what they've showed me at least.
Tell me how the spirits have guided you recently. I've
Oh
seen conflict, rage,
yeah,
and
yeah. There's
a lot
like
of
a bear in the mountain. I don't know. Um, I, I don't. I was adopted, sir. I grew up in the with the settlers that came to conflict. I don't really know my heritage or lineage. I don't know what's a good word here for that. Am I okay? Am I going to be okay?
Taking your first steps into this, the real new world. You will find your way, or you will die.
That's not that's not reassuring.
Should it be? Should I be? You have legs to stand on. Cairn to guide you. What more could I start making my way towards the food and drink,
Yeah.
and very much indicating that to him, we've got food and drink. What else do you want?
Yeah.
Food, drink.
There's a moment where he just kind of stands there trying to soak in what you've told him as you just make your way to the table where you sense where you can smell the food being prepared and whatnot. And after a moment he starts to run up to you to catch up. Um yeah, so we're werewolves, right? Like we can
Garu.
okay. But we can do we have to kill people?
Do people have to kill animals?
We need to survive, yeah.
Such as it is. The order of things. We
Kinda,
have an alpha here. We have, in your world, leaders, leaders of tribes, of cities, nations, of peoples, or hierarchies. We are above the humans. This
he
is the way of things.
he nods, and after a moment kind of looks at you. You see him putting his hands in each other. It's kind of like rolling them in each other's kind of palms, and he looks um uneasy, and then he's like, have you had to kill anyone?
Have you heard of Fort Pueblo?
He nods. Yeah, southeast.
Routed last winter?
Mm-hmm. That was you?
We were there.
Oh,
They did not belong. As you see the world as it truly is, you will see how things do and don't belong.
he looks down at his clothing, kind of like this.
It would be wrong to destroy for no reason that which was taken from the earth.
Hmm.
But that is a sign of too much. Sign of the Weaver.
He nods.
But as is said, the clothes do not make the man.
You see that they have prepared rabbit stew, that there's some wild coyote that has been prepped and cooked. Um, and you do see that there's the carcass of a bison that they have recently killed and are just about almost done draining. You can see there's few bowls that they have used to kind of harvest its blood for different things, and you can definitely see the glyphs of thanks and of uh well had fight and not a needless struggle.
Uh, Let me show you, Charlie,
He nods.
one of our ways.
Okay.
Uh, I'd like to try to show him the Tear for the Prey minor rite.
Okay.
If it wouldn't be too inappropriate to do that over something that I didn't kill myself, I'd explain it to him. These are rites to make peace with the spirits of the animals that we kill. No matter how strong we are, we don't kill for no reason.
Hmm.
This beast has been killed to feed us, clothe us, and its spirit will understand if we take the proper steps to inform it.
Okay. I I think I understand. Do we have to do this all the time?
Did you pray before meals?
Yeah. Yeah. We were taught to give thanks.
Every time?
There's a moment and he understanding falls over him. Right. Yeah,
These are the
okay.
proper ways.
I get it now.
These are the best ways. No, nothing that you will ever learn will be all the time. But this is the way that you make peace with the spirit. And the more the spirits talk to you, the more you want to be at peace with them.
Most of the spirits that I've dealt with currently are don't want anything to do with me. Is that going to change?
As you do, so it will.
Okay.
There are some spirits that will never want anything to do with you, or with me, any of us.
Ooh.
Just like other people.
Yeah, okay. How do you do it then?
Do what?
How do you get used to that being different?
Just is what it is. We are who we are. This is the way of things. How you feel about it doesn't change it.
A long moment that he just kind of stares down to his stew.
This is perhaps too much for at once. It will come slowly.
Okay. I mean, you know more than me.
Clearly.
He nods. I'm gonna let you get situated then.
Can you tell me, though, if there's any new happenings in town? Dad said. We came across miners on our way.
Yeah, yeah. You got brought up the mountain path then. Um,
Hmm.
no, I mean there's always stagecoaches coming in and out. People coming to figure out what they want to do with their lives. I'm I'm I've been trying to stay away from the city more and more, but it's difficult with my father still there, my adopted father still living there. Uh,
Hmm. Are there other kinfolk here who have helped guide you?
there's kinfolk around. Um, they're they mostly kind of hang out, they stay in the city. There's a few that are minors, um, and they're trying to just kind of slow down anything that they can and just be as useful as possible. Um, do you
Much.
do you have a spirit that kind of just guides you, that just is always there for you?
No, no.
Okay,
That's not the way that I've seen.
because I have a spirit that the first time I was taken into the Umbra has always been there and keeps following me around.
Very special thing. You should ensure that you keep it happy.
How
Listen to it.
how do I do that?
It will let you know.
Okay. And you see him just kind of like flop down. Just starts to eat his stew.
I'll try to make some progress on my stew as well.
It's not great, but it is food. You know, it could use seasoning. Um, but it's nourishment. You know, it is what it is. There's potatoes, there's rabbit, there's carrots, um, just a thick broth. Um, and as you finish up your stew, you see they start to skin the bison. They're very meticulous. You see them using a beautiful set of knives that look like their handles are made out of antler bone or antler cartilage. Um, they're being really careful to keep the fur as best as possible, the hide rather. Um, but you notice that Charlie's still kind of halfway through the soup.
Not hungry, boy?
Oh, just thinking about what we talked about.
Well, good then.
Yeah. And he shoves
When you've had enough,
a potato in his
would you
mouth.
show me around a little?
Mm, mm. And he puts the bowl down and you see him scramble to get to his feet and he finishes chewing his potato. Yeah, come on. And he shows you around the cairn. You know, he shows you where the majority of the elder pack kind of rests. Shows you where the communal resting area is. He takes you to the challenge pit, to where they kind of have their version of an amphitheater for storytelling. There's a good portion of different areas that have been kind of laid out. And there's markings he shows you. And as he finishes up and he brings you back to the throne, you hear a howl.
Just about how many others did we see in the Cairn?
Just Guru, there's maybe six or seven. But counting the kinfolk, there's almost 20. But you hear a howl, and it is a deep howl. It's again the same thing. It's like, hey, I'm here. I have a guest. And immediately you see the Red Wolf, the Red Talon challenge master kind of raises his snout up to the sky, and he lets out this howl. Another one. Bring them. And Charlie kind of looks over at you. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
What is that?
I don't know. I had a dream a couple days ago of this flood, and the water was impossibly high. It was as big as a throne there, and it was swallowing up everything. It was swallowing up California. It was swallowing up Utah. It was swallowing up the territories around us. And then I remember hearing a howl, and there was a wall of 5 wolves that kept the water at bay.
Now, you're young, and you are learning. And here's something very important. If someone asks you, has anything important been happening lately? A dream like that, when you speak to the spirits, is something important.
Oh, what do you think it
While
means?
you may still have current, simple dreams, that is a means by which the spirits guide us.
How can I tell the difference?
Do you remember the dream from the night before?
No? Oh, I get it now.
These messages will stay with you. You'll feel, you'll know it's more important than just noise and sound.
Okay.
5. That's a pack. Let's see who's joined us.
Okay. And as The group kind of goes over. You see the Red Wolf pad itself over to the direction of where the howl came. The young lady that brought you into the cairn goes over and stands next to them. Charlie, very uncomfortably, you see him, like his hands starts to shrink down, his legs start to shrink down. He kind of falls forward as he takes his wolf form, and you just see him kind of shake it out, almost like a dog that's just come out of the pool. And he looks up at you, and through the wolf tongue, he just not used to it.
I'll drop down to Lupus as well.
And he...
Much more gracefully than...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you see that as he walks to kind of join the others in welcoming whoever's coming, there's a few missteps. There is one hard misstep that nobody else but you gets to see as he puts his paw down on a rock the wrong way and he just goes crashing to the floor. And he immediately just kind of like pushes himself back up and just kind of stands there for a moment. And everybody kind of turns around to see what that thud was about. They see him kind of standing there. They see you with him. Nobody really gives it a second thought, and they just turn around. And after a few minutes, you see what looks to be this gentleman, two gentlemen, walking into the cairn. One of them just has this stark black hair, this bit of beard, and the other one almost looks disheveled. The clothes has a bit of wrinkling to it. There's the typical kind of wide brim hat that doesn't match any of the other colors that he has on his person. But you notice that he does have a 6-iron at his waist. And as the dark gentleman motions to him and then motions to the group that's assembled, this is where we'll pick up once we have the entire group. And you are now part of the cairn, sir. I want to thank you for being part of this and joining us on this adventure. I'd also like to thank everybody that tuned in to watch us tonight. Thank you so much for that. As always, you can watch our revolving options of games. This Friday, we will have our Star Wars The West End Games version of a story set during the fall of the Republic. Otherwise, you can catch us on Monday for our Vampire the Masquerade campaign. We have our Camarilla chapter this Monday. And if not, I will see you next Tuesday for our second episode of our Legend of the Five Rings game, as Tuesdays revolve between Legend of the Five Rings and Werewolf the Wild West. As always, please continue to keep your distance, continue to wash your hands, continue to wear your masks in public, and if you are of age and you can get the vaccine and you haven't, please get yourself vaccinated so that we can put an end to this and try to save ourselves from what is probably going to be a hard winter. So, as always, if you are watching live on Twitch and you feel like you need help with your mental health, because we take mental health here very seriously, there are phone numbers going up to help you. Remember that it is okay to not be okay. And if you need help, there's no shame in asking for it. If you are not in the United States, there is a link going up so that you can find resources in your area to help you get the help that you need. Because we're not alone in this, and you need to know that if you need it, there is somebody out there that can and will help you as best as possible. So please, if you feel like you need it, the resources are there for you. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you when we see you.